you run your own freelance business? Or maybe you're thinking about picking up some business on the side? Well, then you need FreshBooks. FreshBooks is the quickest and easiest way to get invoices out to your clients. It's easy to use. It works anywhere, available from any device, on the desktop, iPhone, iPad, Android, and all of your data is backed up and secure. And it makes it really easy to get organized and get paid. You'll be tracking time, logging expenses, and invoicing your clients in no time. You can also save time billing, freeing up several days per month to focus on the work that you love, and you get paid faster. FreshBooks customers are paid on average 5 days faster because there's a link on the invoice that says pay me now. And it's a great way to grow your business. Plus, FreshBooks is offering a 30-day trial. That's right, 30-day trial if you try them out. So go to gofreshbooks.com/devchat and enter devchat in the How Did You Hear About Us section. Once again, for a 30-day trial, go to gofreshbooks.com/devchat and enter devchat in the How Did You Hear About Us section. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of My JavaScript Story. This week, our guest is Sean Merron. Sean, do you want to say hi?
Hey everybody.
Now, you were on JavaScript Jabber. We were talking about money.
That's right, we were.
I'm trying to get the episode number. I should have looked it up beforehand, but I didn't. Episode 273. And,
yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we had you and Kevin on the show. I think I'm interviewing Kevin, not too far in the future. But anyway, why don't you give a brief introduction and then we will jump in and start talking about coding and stuff.
Sure, yeah. I'm Sean Merron. I'm currently in Austin, Texas, originally from Virginia Beach, Virginia. Moved here a little over a year ago. I'm a full-time software engineer. Been doing it for about 15 years now. A few years away from early retirement. And just happy to be here. It's good. The JavaScript Jabber show was a lot of fun. I like connecting with my fellow software engineers and talking about things outside of software engineering sometimes. So it was a slight different, than what we're used to from our normal programming, right? But good to be back.
Yep. One other thing that I thought was funny is I listened to another show that's two keto dudes. I'm wondering if there are any relation between the names or if you just kind of came to those separately.
That's so funny you mentioned that. So yeah, Kevin, my co-host, Kevin Griffin, does listen to Two Keto Dudes. And when we were talking about the name for the podcast, Two Frugal Dudes, a little over a year ago now, I had said, let's be the Frugal Dudes. How's that sound? And then out of nowhere, he was like, Two Frugal Dudes. And I was like, yes, that sounds awesome. And I had never heard of the podcast before, Two Keto Dudes. And he had, but it didn't click right away. And I had actually listened to .NET Rock Show for a very long time.
Right.
So yeah, familiar with, with the host there. And then it was like, I don't know, a few days later, Kevin, or the next episode we recorded, he's like, I totally just know where we got that name from. He's like, I listened to Two Keto Dudes. And I was like, well, too late now. It's like, and actually we've gotten a lot of people that have, really liked the name. So thanks to Keto Dudes. I mean, awesome guys over there, but definitely love the name Two Frugal Dudes. Nice.
Yeah. I spent some time with Carl and Richard, not from Two Keto Dudes, from .NET Rocks. Because incidentally, yeah, Carl does two shows and his co-hosts on both of those shows are named Richard and they're different guys. But anyway, one of the things that Microsoft has been doing is that they've been flying podcasters out to their events and we've been interviewing their folks. And I've been doing that for JavaScript Jabber. And so, yeah, I spent 3 days in New York City hanging out with Richard Campbell and Carl Franklin from .NET Rocks.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's fun. And yeah, I went on a tear just ranting about the current state of medical advice for people like me. I have type 2 diabetes. And yeah, the Two Keto Dudes has been a really big help for me. A lot of the medication just didn't work well for me. And right. I went keto for a month and all of my numbers straightened out.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, Kevin has talked great things about it. I've done the paleo diet in the past and have had success there. So I know it's not completely similar, but a lot of the awesome things in the keto diet, are in the paleo diet. So I think that's great what they could do for people. Kevin and I also we did write an article for Diabetes Council as well, like on how to cut back and be frugal, and we talked about your diet, and some of the health things, what you could do differently in the grocery store. So it's inexpensive and it's a tough disease to deal with. So I feel it, and I'm glad that two keto dudes and two frugal dudes
Yep.
can come together and help out.
Yeah. In fact, I just realized I thought I was subscribed to your podcast, but I'm not. So two frugal dudes. That's twofrugaldudes.com. The number 2.
That's right, number 2. Yeah, if you do TWO, you'll get there too. But we typically go by the number 2.
Right. Well, I'm just going to subscribe right now. Add podcast.
Nice.
Search for podcast. Yeah. So anyway, this is usually an interview show where we talk to people who have been on JavaScript Jabber. We don't always talk about JavaScript because not all of our guests are JavaScript people, experts, or have even really done much with it. But at the same time, it's a chance for people to get to know the guests. And it's also a chance for us to just kind of showcase the fact that, you mentioned early retirement, so people who are doing extraordinary things out there, like retiring, before they're 30 or 35, or people who are out there, making the awesome stuff that we use in JavaScript on a daily basis, like Lodash. I interviewed John David Dalton. They're people too, and they go through the same things that we do. And anyway, it just kind of puts a human face on the programming community, and that's something that's important to me. So let's just dive right in. I mean, you are a software developer. We didn't just randomly have you on the show, even though we did talk about finances. Right. So how did you get into programming?
Well, it's funny. When I was in high school, the last 2 years of my junior and senior year, I went to a trade school, and I didn't want to go. My mom actually kind of forced me to go because I was more concerned about having my lunch block, right, and hang out with my friends.
Mm-hmm.
I was into gaming and computers and stuff, but for some reason I just didn't want to go to this trade school. But I actually did end up going, and it was for computer networking. Actually, it wasn't programming. It was I got my CCNA, Cisco Certified Network Associate, out of it. So I was doing so I was doing routing and switching in high school, and at the same time, I met some great people in that class where we got together and we would build each other's computers. So I also got my A+ certification out of there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Had the opportunity to meet professionals in the industry that would come in and talk to us, and that's how I was able to land my first job, actually doing like tech support around the office when I was 17, making $40,000 a year. It was pretty amazing. It's unheard of. So I was pretty excited about that. So it started off in computer networking, and I remember my first real experience. I had done a little bit of web design stuff, but my first real experience in trying to learn programming, I went to my guidance counselor coming up to my senior year, and I was like, "Hey, I'm doing this CCNA at this technology center, and I really, I have an extra block back at in high school that I could take maybe something else as well, and I would really like it to be somewhat related to that class. Do we have anything here at the high school that I could do?" And she was like, "Yes, we have this AP computer science class that you can take." And I was like, "All right, I don't know what that means, but let's go for it. I mean, it's computers, so I'll do great, right?" And get into the class, and it's it's the advanced. It's like the second or third level class in computer science, and I didn't really know what computer science was at the time. I just knew I liked computers, and that's the subject of computer programming, I guess. So, and the language they were using was Java, and the bad thing is the teacher, since I was put in this class, I didn't know that there was any prerequisites, but everything she taught, she referenced C++, and I didn't even know what C++ was either at the time. So I hated programming at first. Honestly, it didn't really click to me. It was really hard to understand. Maybe it was her learning methods. I don't know. But I mean, she was probably a great teacher, but it was just that reference constantly to C++. I didn't have that, basic grounding in computer programming. So it was just trying to dive right into Java. And so I ended up getting a D in that class, honestly, and I never wanted to program ever again in my life. So that's how it was introduced to me. It wasn't the best terms, and now I'm a full-time software engineer, and I love programming.
Right.
And we could probably get back to that in a minute.
That's awesome. So I think Amy said that she met you at a Node event or a JavaScript event. So how did you get into JavaScript then?
Yeah. I met Amy at a conference called Revolution Conf. It took place in Virginia Beach. And buddy Kevin as well. We know each other from the software engineering world, and was able to help run that conference with him. And that's where I met Amy. But going back to JavaScript, so I talked about gaming. That's kind of where I guess everything started out for me in the past. Playing Diablo, Counter-Strike, World of Warcraft, Oregon Trail, right? Yeah. Yep. But and that led to me wanting to build websites for my clans and my guilds. So I don't know if you remember GeoCities.
Yeah.
You remember GeoCities? Oh yeah.
Yep.
the old web page builder, right? Drag that was forget Squarespace and Wix and all this, man. GeoCities was the old drag and drop website builder back then.
Yep.
They kind of blazed that trail.
Well, that's where I got started too. So
oh, okay,
yeah,
cool. Well, look at that. But I remember like when I would put stuff into the GeoCities website, you could see the code, or I don't remember exactly how, but I could see the HTML, or if there were certain widgets, even JavaScript at times. And so I would go in there and make certain edits. I would learn, hex codes for colors and different things. And so I kind of started learning how to build my own HTML files. And I started out just in Notepad, just typing up I still to this day, sometimes if I want to do something quick, I open Notepad and just save it as an HTML file and look at it, which is absurd. Or I'll use VS Code too, but no, it's just like a super fast thing.
yeah.
But no, yeah, very rare. But so I started off in Notepad and GeoCities, kind of learned coding that way. And then later on, I kind of used those skills when I started doing that tech support job. There was lots of times where I had to solve, continuous issues over and over again. So I started writing scripts. They started off with VB script, and then I started mixing in some JavaScript as well. And have you ever heard of HTML applications, HTA applications?
No, actually, I haven't.
All right. So what? Basically, I used to create, either JS or VBS files to run some scripts. And then what I learned is you can create .hta extensions, which is HTML application. And instead of an HTML web page, it actually launches in like this small little form of a browser that you can run. You can like add little widgets to, and you can put an embedded script in it. So I was embedding, VB script and JavaScript into it, and creating these like small little GUI applications that were really just scripts when you would click a button. And so those are kind of my first real applications. That's when I kind of fell into love into programming, really started understanding it again, and that evolving into now developing enterprise class applications as a software engineer, now doing a lot of web-based stuff with Angular and jQuery and etc. So it kind of evolved in the vanilla side of JavaScript. I still go back to there every once in a while, but a lot of fun.
Nice. So so you're doing web stuff now. Yeah, it sounds like it just kind of clicked. You found some niche that was fun for you to play in.
Yeah.
I'm curious, as you came up through the ranks, you didn't really like programming until it kind of clicked for you. For people who are coming in and are new, do you have any advice for them as far as kind of finding their niche or figuring out, this is the kind of stuff that I ought to be doing because I really love it?
Yeah, I would say when I first, when I look back, those instances where I was trying to solve a problem, like I had something on hand that I wanted to solve. So I really, I was forced to kind of learn, teach myself scripting, and I went through those, trials and failures to learn, and successes, I guess too, to learn scripting just, by being thrown into the fire. Honestly, every time I wanted to solve a new problem, I had something tangible that I could work on right then. Many times in the past, the mistakes I've made is where, hey, Angular seems cool. I'm going to go buy a book on it and just read the book. And then by the time I'm actually ready to use it, it's been 3 months later and I forgot it. So it's having a project, that's the most important thing. And now even as like an enterprise web developer, I work on new applications in my company. And whenever, the next application or the next feature set comes around that I'm working on, I always say, hey, let's take this opportunity to learn something new. So I'll learn a new framework or, some other library or something I want to implement into our applications. And I have an actual deadline or requirement, something I'm working on for a customer that I need to get done by a certain time, but it forces me to kind of learn it. So I'll go on, Pluralsight or YouTube and watch a tutorial as I'm learning it, so whatever part of the language I'm in, I'm kind of learning that part as I go, right? And so I'm immediately putting it to work and immediately, feeling myself typing the keys. So that's been helpful for me rather than, I forget if I haven't done something in 3 months, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
I pretty much forgot about it. I'd have to go back and learn it anyways.
You're human too? Dang it.
I know, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, and this is something that I run across because I wind up coaching a bunch of folks that are trying to either get their first programming job or get their second programming job. And what I find is, depending on how they got in, sometimes the second programming job is harder than the first because on the first programming job, they kind of got somebody to take a chance on them or they knew somebody. And the second programming job, they really haven't done a whole lot to expand their options. And so don't know people, or they don't know what they don't know, and so it's hard for them to get the job, and so they start looking for, okay, well, how do I level up? And yeah, I'm always saying, look, do a project, and don't do I'm going to build a Twitter clone with Angular, right? I'm always like, look, find something that you really care about and build it. I'm like, it can be the dumbest, simplest thing. It's a database that tracks song lyrics or something. I mean, whatever. But if it's something that you really care about, then you'll get involved, and you'll figure out what parts of it you really love doing.
Absolutely.
So what have you contributed to the programming community that you're particularly proud of?
Yeah, being an enterprise developer, I haven't done a whole lot of open source stuff out there. And it's funny because a lot of people ask for like my resume, my GitHub resume, and I'm like, well, I don't really have one.
Yeah,
I would love to, but I can't share any of that with you. But or else I would. I mean, still though, I use a lot of open source libraries, and I could contribute more there. But some of my contributions are more so with the community from a personal perspective, or from a teaching, mentoring perspective. Internally for the company I worked for previously, I ran the .NET Center of Excellence, we called it, and the Jabble Center of Excellence, which was the JavaScript and Browsers Library Center of Excellence. So these were a few influencers that I got together with in the company, and we would hold monthly meetings to teach the whole enterprise, all the software engineers. We had, I don't know, probably we had a few thousand software engineers in the company, and we would just teach them on something new, something we're doing, a project we're working on. Sometimes we would have internal presentations, or we would actually bring in external vendors. We had Microsoft, a lot of famous authors on Pluralsight and books would come in as well, that we've had to come in, and we've asked them to do a presentation, and they've taught people on certain things. And then we kind of set standards as well. All the technology that was coming into our company, we set the standards on what was allowed, what was not allowed, what was being deprecated. So we kind of had to do these evaluations of technologies for our enterprise. So that was a lot of fun doing that internally, but that also led to some external community collaboration projects as well. Wanting to get involved and bring more people together. And this is where I met Kevin. So through meetups, the .NET user group that Kevin ran in Virginia Beach. I was going there for a few years, and he asked for help with it, and that's when I stepped up and I organized it. When he went down for a little bit and wanted to work on some other things. So running that .NET meetup along with another co-organizer as well was a lot of fun. I mean, that was again, meeting influencers, bringing people in, bringing the community together, figure out how to stay up to the latest technologies, teach people about it, give our opinions on it, to put these together. I mean, anyone that runs a meetup out there knows it's it's built on love. This is not something people do to make money. It's just because they enjoy the aspect of community. And that led even further to conferences. So we got together in our local 757 area code area, and we got together with all the meetups, and we started this whole 757 developers group out there. And so all the organizers from all the meetups, we all got together and we started hosting conferences. One of the ones I helped run was Hampton Roads Dev Fest. That was one where the Google developers group was able to, every year they run Dev Fest, and the organizer came to me. And the organizer came to me and asked if I could help, run a conference with them. And I was like, yeah, heck yeah. So we got, we made it happen. We got everybody involved, and we got some great speakers to come out. And then, then eventually Revolution Conf too, with Kevin. I was able to get involved with that, and some other great influencers out there. I can't name them all because there's so many. I mean, you got the organizers of the conference, you got so many other volunteers. It's been a blessing to just meet these people in the community. And I guess that's how my contributions have been, just kind of volunteering or help organizing some of these events in the industry.
Yeah, well, the events are important, and it's funny. I keep saying it's funny, and it's bugging me. Anyway, it's all
right. I say,
yeah, Anyway, I was having a conversation with some folks. I think it was on JavaScript Jabber, actually. So that episode will come out here in a little bit. No, it was on Adventures in Angular, so it'll come out next week, I think. Anyway, we were talking about diversity and stuff, and we were talking about trade-offs, whether if you have new organizers that aren't well connected, don't know anybody, and they can't bring out a lineup that, meets some diversity standard that somebody's put out there, should they cancel the conference, was the question asked. And, a few of the people on the show said, yeah, they should cancel. And I had to chime in, and, I basically said, look, conferences are such a net positive for the community. that honestly, if they hold the conference, they will become well enough connected to where the next year they can actually meet those requirements without as much effort or trouble or, gee, I don't know anybody, because they'll know so many more people. And so, but that reflects really my view on conferences. And that is just, they do so much for the community. And it's not just people coming together and hearing talks and, sitting through the sessions. It's people showing up and communicating with each other and talking about the things that they're running into and making connections and all of the other things that happen at a conference that you just don't get anywhere else. I mean, even users groups to some degree give you some of that, but not to the level of conferences. And you get to rub shoulders with these experts, and you can go buy them lunch because they're in town and you know where to go and they don't. And anyway, it's such a huge, huge thing. And I think sometimes people think that open source contributions are sort of the pinnacle of what you contribute to a community. And my feeling is that we kind of need all of it. We need the people who are writing the blog posts. We need the people who are organizing the conferences. We need the people who are writing documentation. We need the people who are writing open source. And we need all of the other people who are out there using it, finding problems with it, and reporting it back. So
absolutely, yeah.
So, big hats off and thank you for your contributions to the JavaScript community.
Thank you. Yeah, we're all good at certain things, right? So we all kind of can give our pieces in different ways, and that's the beauty of it.
Yep, absolutely. So I'm going to detour a little bit. We brought you on to talk about finances on JavaScript Jabber, because why not, right? It's a JavaScript podcast, so let's talk about money. So two Frugal Dudes, how did that come about?
So from the community, Kevin and I met, as software engineers. And one thing we did many times is after every user group meeting, we would go out and get pie. Anyone that's been to the .NET user group out in Virginia Beach knows that we would all get pie after. And my specialty was pie and a side of bacon. But anyways.
Ooh, you are my kind of guy. That sounds so good.
Yeah, that's awesome. Anybody that knows me right now is like, yes, I missed the pie and bacon. But anyways, so we would always go out for pie and bacon afterwards. And one of the talks that we would notice we started having a lot, especially between Kevin and I, was about money and other software engineers as well. We're in an opportunity where we can make a decent amount of income. And I see a lot of times, though, even in my coworkers, where they don't necessarily just still know how to manage their finances, or not in a way that, they could really be way ahead than maybe where they already are. So I don't know. I think it's a little arrogant sometimes to think that, our jobs, our positions are going to last forever, and these great incomes are going to last forever. We never know what can happen. I mean, competition, more and more people are learning computer science. I mean, it's becoming, it's definitely a difficult skill, especially at the senior level. But, I think it's important to learn our finances. And that's when Kevin and I, after we started talking, I talked a lot about, early retirement, because it's something that, I'm really excited about and I'm planning for. And he teaches Financial Peace University for his church through Dave Ramsey.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So we kind of had, we had different things to say about finances, because I'm like really extreme, and, I talk a lot about investing, and, he's all about, he knows a lot about crushing the debt, and, the peace that you can have in it, and, not necessarily, going like crazy, but it's so cool. Like just the topics and the conversations that we had to talk about, that we were like, you know what, man, all these conversations we're having are getting lost. Like we should be sharing this with our software engineer, peers. And that's when, and that's kind of how it started. We were like, okay, let's start a podcast. Let's try it out. And it took us a few months to really get it off the ground and launched and everything. I think now we record once a week, but at first it was like we recorded like one a month for the first 3 months. And we finally figured it out. It was our first podcast, and we got it recorded and launched it. And then like we started getting feedback from people that, like, hey, thank you so much for what you do. Like, I can, like, I remember one person said to me, I can attribute, my personal finance knowledge and knowing that later in life I'm gonna be taken care of and retire early because of your podcast. And like when someone told me that, I was like, wow, like, like this feels like serving my community even more. Like, even, I'm religious as well. I believe in serving a community, and I feel like, the podcast is a way that, not only are we changing lives, but we're trying to help people advance. And it's cool hearing it from just me and Kevin, just, two middle-class software engineers just talking about what we're doing in our family's finances. That's really all we're doing. We're just sharing our story, and somehow that's connecting with people because it is an important topic. I mean, every single decision we make, somehow affects our personal finances.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's so true, at least in my experience. I mean, I've made some pretty dumb decisions, right? And some of the decisions that I've managed to avoid making are things that, yeah, I mean, a conversation with somebody in the know or with, just a little more experience than me really helps. I think the podcasts about programming help in a similar way, right? Where it's, oh,
Yeah.
well, I'm not going to make that mistake. I'm going to make a different mistake, or I'm going to go learn in a different way or whatever. And yeah, it's important to put that out there. And it's funny too, because a lot of people have this idea that podcasts or radio programs or anything else are, oh, these are kind of the elite of the elite. And it's like, no, we're just a couple of folks that are getting together and chatting about what we're doing in the hopes that it'll help you out,
Absolutely. Yeah, Two Frugal Dudes is really just out of love. I mean, there's no special interest. There's no, we're not really making any money. Yeah, I ended up writing a book out of it and everything, but I hardly make anything on that. Honestly, like I mentioned before, I'm already planning on retiring early just from middle class savings. If something else comes out of it, cool. But it's just something we do for fun. And I don't know, it's another challenge. And we're learning a lot from the podcast community, meeting people like yourself through it. So it's another way that's just kind of, I don't know, taking us to the next level. And it's been a lot of fun on the journey so far.
Awesome. So are there things that, it'd be interesting to know about the audience? I mean, I'm just curious, like how big your audience is and who you generally are reaching. Is it mostly software folks or people or are you reaching a wider community than that? Or
yeah, so actually the demographics, started adding Google Analytics to our podcast site about halfway through. I was a little slow on getting everything together when I was caring more about that information for demographics. But actually, it's 50-50 men and women that come to our podcast, which is really cool to hear. Even though it's the Two Frugal Dudes, we worry about that man mantra, but at the same time, we embrace everybody, and we're glad to see that that's coming through our voice. The main thing is, our big thing is we're empowering everybody to manage their personal finances in layman's terms. Kevin and I do not like big words, so we're not lawyers, or we don't know all these fancy words and fancy lingo. Sometimes when you talk to a financial advisor, they're talking 10 levels above your head. So our big thing is just teaching people how to manage their own finances, in the middle class. So from a industry perspective, yeah, we do get a lot of software engineers actually, and maybe that's from our background, previous network, and who we've kind of advertised it and talked to it through. Actually, we've had a lot of people from JavaScript Jabber that have, I guess, enjoyed our last talk and said they started listening to our podcast. So thank you for that. I'm glad we're able to help people out there. I would say a lot of software engineers. We're getting a lot of people, mid-20s to mid-30s that listen to our podcast. But it's funny, I'll actually get the emails. Most of the emails we get are people in their 50s. Even though I guess everybody, some of the younger crowd is just asking us through Twitter or, our Facebook community. but we'll get some emails that come through and say, hey, I really love your podcast. I'm in my 50s. I'm a little behind where I want to be. I thought I'd be a lot further ahead. Here's where I'm at. What do you think? And we just give our honest opinion. Like, we're not financial advisors. We say that up front. We don't know everybody's unique situation, so it's up to them to kind of make their own decision. But at the same time, it's nice to hear it from someone that is just doing it with their own families. Not someone that has some kind of other special interest involved. So that's kind of who it seems like we're connecting with.
Nice. So what's kind of the future for you then? I mean, you're talking about retiring early. I don't know if you actually have a timeline on that, but that, and, with software development and the podcast and all of the other things you've got going on, what are you working on now, and where do you think you're going to end up here, with all of this stuff?
Yeah. So this is kind of a new space for us. So originally it was just learning about early retirement for our family. And so I just had my 31st birthday, and we are on pace to retire by the time I'm 35. So we are now 4 years away from early retirement. So, we'll have a little over $1 million saved up, and we'll just kind of live on that passive income for the rest of our lives. Of course, I have a lot of earning potential as well. So, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I'll probably always be, working on something for fun, but it's the whole point of being able to, work on my own startups and my own ideas. And if I ever need to, having the ability to make more money, but not having to, not having that risk, or if something were to happen to me, knowing that my family's taken care of. But this whole personal finance space is is new, like to that community aspect. But me, I was like diving right in. I was like, there's got to be meetups, there's got to be conferences, there's got to be things that, people I can meet out there in this space that I can start working with. And it's been really cool, knowing the old software engineer space and kind of seeing that shift over to personal finance. And the conferences in this space are huge. Like I just went to one. Yeah, I just went to one called FinCon, my first personal finance conference, and it's really for personal finance content creators, so podcasters, bloggers, YouTubers, all the people that are kind of putting together personal finance media, and that was in Dallas, Texas, and that was a blast. I met a lot of people that I had worked with online. I've built up a lot of relationships, got to shake people's hand in person, and now like our podcast is booked out to next August already. And right now it's December when we're recording this, so that's. That has been really cool to kind of just see how open this space is. But there's a lot of money from sponsors in that space. So these conferences are huge because it's personal finance. It's a lot of banks. We're talking credit cards. Like there's a lot of money to throw some huge conferences in that space. Taking the podcast there, meeting these people, getting these other great people that have these awesome personal finance stories already on our podcast to share those and connect with more people. I mentioned the book, the Early Retirement Roadmap book that I wrote, which is really just me sharing what I'm doing to plan for early retirement. I just, wrote it all up in a document, saved as PDF. And hey, I have a little roadmap that people can check out if they want to. And now I'm actually building a course. So the problem in the past, sorry to break up here for a minute, but so I mentioned how I'm an entrepreneur at heart, and I have always been trying to use my software engineer skills on the side for over the past 10 years. So outside of my full-time job, I'm always trying to, I got these ideas flowing in my head. I got these problems I want to solve. I got my own startup ideas I want to work on. Even got involved with the startup community. So I have always been, trying to develop software to solve some problem on the side. And I've been involved in, I think, over 10 or 15 startup companies where I've written software for them and nothing has taken off. I mean, it's been bad. So I have, all these years of software that I've written on the side and no one's standing by ready to buy it. So a lot of that has been, maybe because of my partners in the past that were, I kind of expected them to do some of the marketing task and never really kind of went through, or buying into a vision that really wasn't mine. But so this time I'm doing things differently, which is kind of cool with the early retirement stuff. So I wrote the ebook for fun, and now I'm developing a course for the first time. So I'm learning how to create my own course. And, this is informational product. This is different for me because it's not stuff I'm used to. I just want to write software, right? So I'm leading up to eventually writing software in this space. So at some point I'm going to figure out where these problems are. And I'm learning the marketing now this time around. I'm building an audience. I got the podcast. I'm learning what people actually need. And then I hope to write some software in the future that actually solves their problem. So I'm taking a little bit of a different approach in the personal finance space than just throwing software all over the place in the past like I used to. And just kind of sharing my story with more people of how early retirement is my backup plan to kind of leave the workforce and, live my entrepreneur dreams instead of just trying to do it on the side all the time. So that's really the whole goal of the early retirement roadmap, is just kind of expanding on, why I did this, how you can do it too, in the middle class, and, hoping more people can retire early and start building their own dreams instead of their companies.
Nice. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And I love the idea behind entrepreneurship. In fact, we actually recorded a JavaScript Jabber episode last week with Ryan Glover, who from Clever Beagle, and we talked about entrepreneurship. And yeah, I mean, I think more and more people are going that way, especially when they realize that, hey, you know what, I have the skills to do this.
Yeah.
I was talking to my neighbor the other day. Funny enough, one of my old coworkers, who's a coder, bought the house next to mine. And I ran into him at church and I was like, what are you doing here? And he's like, oh, well, this is, I just moved into the neighborhood. And yeah, it turned out that he moved in next door to me.
Wow.
And we were chatting and we were talking about some of these areas of, we were talking specifically about real estate and, the MLS and how realtors take like 6% of your sale when you sell your house. And he's like, boy, is that a market ripe for disruption? And, just the democratization of information on the internet. We have the skills to change the game. And it's the same thing with healthcare. It's the same thing with finances. It's the same thing with all of these things. And so it's exciting to be an entrepreneur right now. And so I'm excited to see what you come up with once you have the opportunity.
Yeah, I'm absolutely excited too. It's nice to be able to have that freedom. And as I got my career, I started working on some things on the side, and then I got married, I had kids, bought a big house, a dog and a cat. So that side time for my entrepreneur dreams was just dwindling down smaller and smaller. So I'm excited to kind of get rid of some of the complexity and know that my family's taken care of, and I can get my time back to kind of start working on a lot of these ideas again in the future. And that's really the whole key is more time, more freedom.
Yeah, and it's funny you talk about that, because I'm in a similar boat. I have 5 kids, and I've been married for quite a while. But yeah, I've been looking at my finances and basically decided that I needed to have 10 months worth of money in the bank for both the business and personal stuff, and it makes a huge difference, because then I can go and I can be a little bit more risky. I can go explore new areas where I want to expand. And when I'm looking to expand, I'm not looking to expand because I want to make more money, though that's a nice side effect. I'm usually looking to expand because I really care about helping developers live better lives. And so, if I can find some way that serves a whole bunch more people, then I can do that. But, I have to pay the bills. And so, right now I spend a lot of time doing sales and, managing production of podcasts, and a little bit more money would enable me to hire people for the parts of that I'm really not great at and really don't enjoy doing. And then I can go chase down these other opportunities. And yeah, it's huge. It's a huge thing to be able to do that. And it's interesting that you're approaching it from, if I have $1 million in the bank, then, I can go and I can do whatever I want because I'm taken care of for the rest of my life. And I think a lot of people just get stuck in the rut of, well, it's comfortable. I can make all of my bills, and, and then they can't figure out why they're not quite fulfilled with what they're doing. Or, they have that someday thing out there. They're going to write a book. They're going to, they're going to build that startup, whatever, but it's a someday thing after they somehow, some way, eventually, make their way out of there. And, with you have a plan, and with me, I have a plan, and it's so important to have that. And so it's exciting just to see from your perspective, okay, here's the plan, and then I get to go and make the difference I want to make.
Absolutely. Exactly. And that's really how this whole thing started, was doing some soul searching, and thinking about, what is my purpose? And, think about, it was, I remember someone telling me once before, it was like, if you won the lottery, or if you had all this money in the world, if the first thing you think about doing is helping other people, like, oh, I want to help my family, or I want to help my friends, or I want to help more software engineers, or people manage your finances, then you're not greedy. It's not, it's not greed, it's instinct. You're actually you want to make that money because you want to help more people. And just like you touched on earlier, where some of those repetitive tasks, if you can make a little bit more money so those are taken care of, then yeah, you can be the creator, and you can reach more people by building things that's going to connect with some, more people, because you don't have to worry about the mundane stuff anymore. And, that's what it's what we should be doing. Someone told me in the past that, we should want to make more money, because think about it. The more you can make, the more people you can help. I mean, that's ultimately what you're trying to do. And, it's weird, right? Because you can only help so many people with so much funds. I mean, you try to do as much as you can for free, but at the same time, to reach more people, there's all these other companies in front of you, paying a ton of money. I think we're like 5,000 something ads a day, I've heard, that we see now, that are getting in front of you when you're just trying to get your message across to help more people. So if you have the funds to do that, then you're ultimately going to reach more people and experience that fulfillment, help more people achieve their dreams. Because that's a great feeling to have.
Yep. Absolutely. Awesome. Anything else you're working on now? Just growing the podcast just and all that stuff.
Keeping the podcast going. Yeah. I tried to cut out a lot of the extra stuff I was doing with the podcast. That was one of my New Year's resolutions. Essentialism. I do that. I'm kind of a minimalist in my life anyways, and the things I own. And now I'm kind of trying to become more of a minimalist in the business I run, just making sure, like you mentioned earlier, I don't have the funds for the business, itself, making the money to pay for a lot of that stuff. So I need to cut out a lot of the extra stuff I was doing that wasn't as important. I'm getting back to making a better show for the podcast, making a course for people. Like I want to, that's what I should be focusing on. So I mean, that's really what's coming. It's a video course. They got the podcast should be getting better. But those are the things I'm trying to stick to. I'm not trying to branch out and do a whole lot of other kind of traffic source things. I kind of killed I had a bunch of stuff on Twitter going crazy. I kind of killed that. I don't do a whole lot on Facebook. Really, you can only really be good at a few things. I'm like really good. Like I can always think of a way to really make the podcast better. So so really there's not more coming. It's more, I guess it's that whole quality over quantity. So I'm just trying to make the things I already have better and continue to kind of, trim the fat.
Yep, absolutely. And it's something that I think we all wind up doing. It's like when you move, you wind up throwing out a whole bunch of stuff that you didn't realize you still had.
Right.
It's the same thing with business. And, I went through a little bit of a lean time earlier this year, and I wound up cutting a bunch of stuff. And it's stuff that I haven't brought back because I don't need it and nobody misses it. And
well, in the software engineering world, we have the term Yagni, right?
Yep.
That's like the principle I live by is Yagni. You ain't gonna need it.
Yep, absolutely.
So as an engineer, when everything I'm working on, whenever someone comes to me with some requirements, I always have that meeting like, what are you going to be using this for? Or I'm thinking like, I could write this because they're probably going to come back with this, and then the truth is that it's never going to get used, or the next time they come around with the requirements that we thought it was going to be, there's something, it's a different story. You need something on top. I mean, the same goes everywhere. It's just like, Kevin Griffin actually gave you a great quote. Said, "Don't solve problems that don't exist yet." I mean, it's so true though.
So true.
Because you don't know what those problems are going to look like, and you're trying to worry, and anxiety is building up, and you're thinking you need to do all this extra stuff. And and really don't. It's just crap. I mean, cut it out. Just do what you know now. And that goes for everything. For engineering, for life, for the things you own, for your personal finances. Here's another analogy. We bought a 4-bedroom, 2,500 square foot house just for my wife and I.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we first got together. I made many mistakes in the past that I have learned from, and it was like, we thought we were going to have, 4, 5 kids or whatever in the past. And no, we have 2 kids and we are good with 2. So now we live in a 2-bedroom apartment, and where we actually save more money than we did in our house, believe it or not. So I don't know. It's kind of being more practical about things and growing with your life instead of making predictions about the future that, may or may not never happen.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And Essentialism, you mentioned that's a terrific book.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, anything else that you want to dig into before we go into picks?
No, I think that's pretty good. I think that just about covers it.
Where do people go to get your book?
People go to earlyretirementroadmap.com, and I'm actually going to put a promo code on there, Jabber, for 25% off. So if anyone wants to get it, go for it. They can always check out a free preview too. The beginning of the book talks about the finding your purpose in life, the meaning behind things, what you're ultimately trying to get to. You want to invest money for what? To grow it? Okay. To grow it from what? What are you trying to get to? Where do you want to be? And then when you know that goal, when you know what you're trying to get to eventually, then you have that, that fire inside you that just is going to be like, wow, I want to do everything I possibly can to speed that up. So that's really what the beginning is about. You'll see that in the free chapter. And then the later on, I get into a lot of the technical stuff, really, cutting back and how to invest your money. These are all things I've learned from, other great mentors as well. This isn't just stuff I kind of came up with, but I just put it together because, I read the hundreds of blog articles and read all the books and watched all the videos and did this stuff in my life. And this is kind of what came out of it. So that's where you can check it out. And then frugaldudes.com, you can check out the podcast too.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's do some picks. Do you have some things you want to shout out about?
This episode is sponsored by Linode. Linode is offering listeners of this podcast a $20 credit, which is good for 4 free months at their lowest plan. Their plans start at 1 gigabyte of RAM for $5 a month. You can get your servers in any of their 10 data centers, and their high memory plans start at 16 gigabytes. Get a server running in under a minute. They do hourly billing with a monthly cap on all plans and add-on services like backups, node balancers, Longview, etc. VMs for full control, running Docker containers, encrypted disks, VPNs, etc. You can run a private Git server. They provide native SSD storage, 200 gigabit network, and Intel E5 processors. They have 24/7 friendly support, even on holidays, and a 7-day money-back guaranteed. So go check them out at linode.com/JavaScriptJabber.
So, I mean, these have been heard before, I'm sure. Mr. Money Mustache, he's definitely been a huge influencer of mine in the past when it comes to early retirement. Bogleheads, Bogle heads, kind of a spinoff on the little Bogleheads or bobbleheads or whatever they are on the dash. But old John Bogle or Jack Bogle is his nickname, Jack, from Vanguard. The creator of the index fund, founder of Vanguard. I really like bogleheads.com for if you're doing any investing, learning about tax efficiency. It's a really good investing website that I definitely want to call out. I learned a lot from. Along with that is the little book of common sense investing that Jack Bogle wrote. I used to try to pick stocks in the past. Mad Money, booyah, Jim. All that.
I used to watch that show.
Tried that. Yeah, exactly. I called into that show. I was on it once. It was
really?
Hilarious. Yeah. Nothing wrong with Jim Cramer. He's an awesome guy. But there's a lot of these, really exciting investment schemes or, shows and news and things that we watch that gets us excited. And this kind of reminds us that, you can't beat the market. Stop trying. And just go back to passive index fund investing. I personally would already be retired if I started doing this in the past and didn't try to pick stocks and care more about my personal finances. I would already have over $1 million saved up because I've already ran the numbers and saw that. So it just shows you that now I'm adding, an additional 4 to 5 years onto my retirement from an early retirement perspective because of some of the things that I didn't want to learn early on. So, there's some great things. I guess one other philosophical thing I talked about before was just focusing on one startup. I remember I tried to do like 10 different startups at once, and I was always being pulled in different directions. Just trying to plant seeds everywhere and write code for different people. And it probably held me back. And in software engineering, I've learned, that multitasking, trying to work on like 4 different projects at once, it will actually take you longer than trying to work on each one after the other. Just getting one thing done first before the next, you'll actually become more efficient. I remember seeing some studies on this as well. So I would say, the biggest thing I've learned from some of these failed startups is to kind of, pick one and just focus on it, get really good at it and do it for a long time. If I was still working on some of the startups that I gave up on after 6 months after they didn't pan out, if I still had those today, after, almost 10 years later, I can only imagine where they would be. They'd probably be very successful if I just, because if I think about the same thing all hours of the day, I'm always kind of think of ways to improve it. So if you have one startup or one passion that you really care about, really hammer in on that one and just know it's not going to happen overnight and just keep, trucking at it and, years down the road. I think it will be very successful. So those are my tips or my picks and tips.
Awesome. I'm going to jump in here with a few picks as well. You mentioned React, and we are putting together podcasts for React and Vue. So if you're interested in either of those, we have Indiegogo campaigns that are up for those. I think they'll still be running by the time this goes out. We are booked out about a month or so at this point on the show. As far as, having already recorded and lined up the shows. So that's pretty awesome. And you mentioned a startup, but I'm just going to throw this out there because I'll probably actually have a beta version out that people can try by the time, by the time this goes live. If you go to podwrench.com, now, Sean, if you go to it right now, you're going to see like a template landing page.
Nice.
But,
what is it?
You can go sign up and log in right now as we speak. But anyway, what it is it turned out that I am really bad at certain things. Anyway, I wasn't doing super well keeping track of all the stuff for the sponsorships for the shows. And so I built a Rails app that helps me do that. So it swaps the banners out every week for where they're supposed to be. It allows the other thing was just getting the information from the sponsors and making sure that it was all set and good and they were all happy with it. And so it does all of that stuff. So if I update a set of creatives, which is what I'm calling it, which is essentially a set of banners and recordings, talking points, etc. If I or the sponsor update that, then the other gets notified that something changed. And that way, if they want to update their talking points, they can. And then if I update the audio file that gets inserted into the episode, then they'll get notified. And then it also allows people to go in and just sign up as a sponsor. So they can go and they can pick which sponsorship spots they want. The next thing that I'm adding, because it turns out that after I solved that pain, and it all works now like clockwork, it's really nice. Once I solved that pain, the next pain was the podcast production, just keeping track of it. Because I currently use Asana to assign tasks to my podcast editor. And all that information that he needs is already in Podwrench, because it's the sponsorship information. It's the episode that's coming out this week. And so I'm going to be adding some production tools into there to just keep track of things so that you can see what stage the episodes are in as far as editing goes. But the other thing is that it will also then, if the editor comes in and marks it as being edited, then it'll close it to sponsorships and things like that. And so it'll do a whole lot of other automatic stuff that I just don't want to or want to have to do. And so it'll manage all of that stuff. I'm also going to be building in interfaces to the major hosting platforms so that I can build reports for the sponsors. Hey, you sponsored this episode. It's been a week since it's been out. You've gotten this many listens, etc., that kind of thing. And anyway, so I'm just working through some of these things just to provide a terrific experience for podcasters and sponsors. And so, yeah, that's what I'm building. I called it podwrench.com because, podcast tool. Anyway, so
we come up with great names, don't we?
Yeah. I can't decide if it's a massively dumb name or kind of a clever name.
I like it. I think it's pretty cool.
So
yeah.
I haven't changed it. So
that's awesome. Well, yeah, if we ever get sponsors on our podcast, we'll have to check it out.
Yeah, and then I also several years ago built a utility for building RSS feeds, and kind of like FeedBurner, except it doesn't just copy your feed; it allows you to edit it as well.
Nice.
And so I've been using that to build the feeds for devchat.tv for several years. I'm probably the only person that uses it. And so I'm looking at integrating all of that into Podwrench as well. And that way, you can set up your feeds. You can put whatever you want in there. So like if I have something that's timely, like the Indiegogo campaigns or something, I'd like to be able to insert those into the feed and then set an expiry on them so that after the Indiegogo campaigns are over, that I can pull those back out of the feed.
Makes sense.
And the other thing is then it would also auto insert links to the sponsors in the RSS feed and stuff like that. So
nice.
Anyway, just making all of this stuff happen the way I want without having to have a human go in and screw it up. So
exactly. That's awesome. And that's why we have our skills, so we can bootstrap this stuff ourselves, right?
And it's another one that's ripe for disruption. I mean, the incumbents right now are Libsyn and Blueberry, and their tools are ugly, they're awful, their interfaces are hard to use, and they don't do half of this stuff, and it's stuff that I struggle with day to day. So I want a tool that does it for me.
Absolutely.
So
make it.
Yep. And that's what I'm doing.
And and since you have the pain and you're able to do it while you're working on it while you have a project to actually do it with, right? So what are you going to write it in?
It's written in Ruby on Rails, yeah.
Nice.
Some of the interfaces I'm probably, right now they're just jQuery, but I'm probably going to, there's a little bit of state management and a few other things, so I'm probably going to pick up Angular or something and throw it at that problem. But
right.
Anyway, so yeah, so the thing that's really funny about it is that I've had a few people saying, and you mentioned focus on one thing, and I've had a few other people point that out. Okay, so you're building this podcasting tool and you're running a podcasting company, but the thing is that I am building the tools that run my podcasting company.
Exactly.
And the other thing is that just this sponsorship piece has already saved me a ton of time and has made my marketing twice as easy. So
absolutely,
so it's win-win-win, and it's really funny, how it all works out. But yeah,
I was some of the startups, I was trying to work on, I knew some Navy SEALs, and they were doing some tactical services stuff. So they were trying to, I was working with them to try and build some technology for them. But at the same time, I was working with some doctors to build some stuff for the health industry. And then I was trying to, work on some of my own ideas. So yeah, I guess that's kind of where the multitasking was coming from my perspective. But absolutely, now that I'm focusing on, my business, my podcast, my book, I'm able to just, really hone in on that instead of trying to do these things for other people that are keep pulling me away from the dreams and the things that I need to focus on. You just mentioned the podcast. Yeah, I'm figuring out ways how to look at my RSS feed and do a bunch of stuff automatically from that feed, and write some software around that. So yeah, I think those are great ways to still focus in on improving what you already have.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and the other thing is that we've had a couple of lean periods with the podcasting, because I went full time on the podcast about 2 years ago. And, so things slowed down, and mostly it was because I wasn't going out and finding new sponsors, right? So it was my fault. But, I look at my wife and I'd be like, do you want me to go get a full-time job? Because full-time job, is a paycheck every week or every other week or however often, it's a regular check. And she looked at me and she said, you would be miserable, so no. And
That's awesome.
And I mean, that's the other thing is a lot of people, they look at it and they're like, well, it's risky or it's scary or it's terrible or it's this or it's that or it's the other thing. And at the end of the day, if you have $1 million and you're completely miserable and you don't have any good prospects for getting unmiserable, it's not worth it. And so, I mean, a lot of people discount the freedom and the happiness and the flexibility that they get from all of that. Because they are afraid of the financial fallout from a lot of this stuff.
Absolutely. Yep. And then, you can change, like you can get up and just change your life at any point if you have the flexibility in your finances to do it. I mean, it makes it easier. It's like you don't even have to think twice. Hey, I don't like what's going on right now. Let's change it. Let's move, pick up and go. A lot of people get stuck thinking they can't. We had a great guest on our show, Todd Evans from the Go Hunt Life podcast. And he just said, I don't care where you are in your life. Only you can change it. You can change it. He said, no matter how deep and hard of a rut you might be in, you are the one who has to change it, and you can change it. And he says, don't ever think that your situation is you're anchored down too hard. It's not like we sold our 4-bedroom house overnight, and downsized to an apartment. We did that over the course of, probably about 18 months. But we did. We said we planted the seed and we started making small strides and got there. You can live your passion and dreams. You just have to be a little creative about it.
Yep, absolutely. And what are you giving up, right? Are you giving up the opportunity to be there for your kids? Are you giving up the opportunity to do what you really want in life, or not? And
no, yeah. Exactly. Yeah, you got to ask that. Yeah, what are you giving up? Are you giving up a huge house that you have to mow the lawn every day, go clean the pool, you got to go work on that air conditioner that's about to break down. In our case, it was like, okay, if I can get rid of that and I can live my entrepreneur dreams and have more time with my kids and family, I'm not a lazy guy at all. And I like doing things myself, but I got to the point where I realized that, some of that complexity was taking away from the things I enjoyed more than, the little times I would get from the stuff I had.
Yep. 100%. Anyway, so to frugaldudes.com, earlyretirementroadmap.com, any other places that people can go to see what you're doing or follow you, or maybe
they can check me out,
tweet interesting stuff or something.
Yeah, they can check me out on Twitter at Sean Merron, SeanMerron. I kind of just tweet now and then instead of having some of my robo tweets go out. So that's really where I hang out. We also have a Facebook community that you can get an invite to at frugaldudescom. It's our Frugal Cashmates community, because we are all cashmates in the never-ending school of personal finance. You like how corny that one is? That's just around again, surrounding yourself with people that just want to help you. I mean, I think community is so important. Every episode we ask, our guests, how would you attribute it to people you surrounded yourself with to your success? And, it's all about mentors and having someone, just 1 or 2 steps above you that can give you their advice or what they did in their situation, and kind of taking that back. So that's why our Facebook community has been pretty essential, and we want to try to get people in there. So, we can help answer any questions or at least give you advice on what we think about your situation.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Thanks for coming, Sean.
Oh, it's great being here. Thanks for having me again.
No problem. We'll wrap this one up, and we will catch everybody next week.
Bandwidth for this segment is provided by CacheFly, the world's fastest CDN. Deliver your content fast with CacheFly. Visit CACHEFLY.com to learn more.